Last week we were talking about worry and the idea of how worry can absolutely immobilize us, stop us dead in our tracks. And when we let worry really get a hold of us, we know what it can do to our attitudes. We can start to really obsess about it and go down that rat hole of worry and anxiety and fear. This week we're going to talk about some things that we could do to stop worry in its tracks. Number one, you got to make that choice. You've got to have a firm self-belief that today, I'm going to stop it in its tracks. And number two, I'm going to develop some strategies for doing that. Number one is making that choice. If you think of it this way, the idea that when you start to create strong self-belief, a byproduct of that is self-confidence. But in order to do that, a strategy is to take it one step at a time. Think about this, the 3 R's. Recognizing when you have that anxiety, you have that fear, recognizing it in the moment. Second R, simply release it. And thirdly, reload. Reload the thought that you want and be ready with the strategy. And a strategy is, what's the productive action that I need to take? And that's a phrase that I say to myself over and over again. If I'm filled with fear or anxiety or worry, I simply say to myself in the moment, making that choice, what's the productive action I need to take? What's the productive action I need to take? My partner Chet has one, which is, God help me. God help me to stop this worry. And you just simply release it, reload that positive thought, that next step. When you take those steps and you start to create some wins for yourself, that's where you start to build up that self-belief, and that byproduct of that strong self-belief is strong self-confidence. So the idea here is that worry is nothing more than negative goal setting. So what we're going to practice is positive goal setting, taking those 2 steps that we just talked about. One is making a very definite choice, stopping in its tracks. Worry comes from an Anglo-Saxon word that means to choke, literally choke. You're choking to death on worry. And when you think of it in those terms, that can be motivating enough possibly to, at this point, to stop it dead in its tracks. And secondly, reload with the mantra or the positive action that you're going to take, that first step. And again, when I think of it that way, what's the positive action? What's the step that I can take to stop worry dead in its tracks? 2 resources that you can go to right now, and they're excellent. Carol Dweck wrote a book called Mindset, and it's the idea of having a fixed mindset versus a growth mindset. Wonderful material right now on the Built to Lead blog, www.builttolead.com. Chet, my partner, wrote an incredible blog about I think it's called Bright Markers. You'll see it, and it's wonderful. It relates to exactly what we're talking to about now, and a little more in-depth than this 2-minute video right here. So hey, I hope you've had a great week. As you can see, I got a little ocean behind me and some clouds. Have a great weekend. Look forward to seeing you next week. This is Pete Kunk, Built to Lead.